Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country. Yeah. We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto.
Divorce rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men. Terrible that you would applaud that.
Barack Obama didn't step away quietly. He went full Hollywood, swapping the White House podium for a Netflix microphone and a luxurious beachfront mansion. He's now releasing memoirs like mixtapes and offering advice from a pedestal built on contradictions. Critics like Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld aren't convinced by the polished image. They're peeling back the layers to reveal what they see as a legacy of style over substance. This is a sharp takedown where charm clashes with cold reality and somehow still lands a production deal.
I got a glass of water. I'm serious. I'm thirsty. Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. You never seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's amazing.
no.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this, like this.
Problem
He's
is solved?
bullshitting the world. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? What? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him. No, you bring a fucking water on.
Is Obama gay, needing attention over an old letter? What? I should read that again. Anyway, no, we'll just keep going. The New York Post obtained a redacted portion of a handwritten letter the former president sent to his then college girlfriend, Alex McNear. Alex, eh? Back in 1982. He talked about his, quote, androgynous mind and wrote, and I'm quoting Obama here, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination.
Barack Obama stepped into history armed with a pen, a teleprompter, and the unwavering belief that hope could serve as long-term policy. It's almost poetic how someone could speak so eloquently for 8 consecutive years, yet ultimately say so little. His presidency often felt like a TED Talk with Secret Service protection, impressive in delivery, but empty in results. Lofty rhetoric masked shallow outcomes, while his supporters applauded every raised eyebrow as if he'd just cured cancer.
Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it.
When the shine starts to fade, Joe Rogan circles like a shark that smells blood in a sea of nostalgia-fueled narratives. If you know Joe, you know that anyone who's wrestled a bear on mushrooms while debating quantum mechanics in a sauna has probably already shared a podcast episode with him. When he looks at Obama's legacy, he doesn't see a statesman, he sees a stand-up comic who landed a Netflix special without delivering a single punchline. From the very first Let Me Be Clear, Rogan sensed the truth. We weren't getting clarity, we were getting the political equivalent of interpretive dance. All motion, no meaning.
You know, he was roasting Trump in the audience, and you could see Trump in his head going, okay, I'm going to run now. Like, that might have been the thing that got him to run.
No one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
That one moment where Obama was talking to him might be the reason why Trump was like, I'll show you.
Then comes Greg Gutfeld, wearing that trademark smirk that says, I'm about to dismantle your public image, armed with nothing but sarcasm and a Red Bull. And Obama gave him plenty to work with. Here was a man who won a Nobel Peace Prize before even settling into the Oval Office, then spent years launching drone strikes across the Middle East, all while being serenaded by Hollywood elites. It was like watching a self-proclaimed pacifist win a UFC belt before the first round. Only two. Step into the octagon wielding a steel chair, backed by a choir of journalists singing his praises.
President number 44 wants to help the left censor more. Former President Obama, if that's his real name, is launching a campaign to stop the spread of disinformation, which he called a real challenge for our democracy. And also for his former Veep, who's challenged by questions like, what's my name and why am I nude in the Rosebud?
Joe Rogan tackles foreign policy like a pit bull tearing into a pair of overpriced Italian loafers. He's not interested in dissecting diplomacy. He's calling it like a UFC ref watching someone tap out. Beneath a barrage of strategic airstrikes, when it comes to Obama's infamous red line in Syria, Rogan sees it the way a survivalist views a broken compass. Completely useless, and somehow still dangerous. Obama threatened a dictator with all the force of a school principal scolding a kid for skipping lunch duty. Spoiler alert, Assad didn't flinch.
Because Obama said he was a jacket.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing up there? He's a jack.
He's like, oh, really? Well, you.
It was about the Taylor Swift thing.
Now, all this stuff.
That guy's a jacket. Like, it wasn't even that harsh of an incident. He said it privately, and I think somebody heard it. I don't think he said it to be public.
I'm assuming all this stuff. Where's the pool? Come on, guys. Cut the president some slack.
Oh, here it is.
Seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award.
Why would he do that?
He's a jack.
Gutfeld goes after Obama's economic legacy like he's carving up the world's driest turkey dry. Merciless, and a little bit hilarious. He brings up the infamous shovel-ready jobs promise and turns it into a full-blown Broadway farce. The only thing truly ready was the public's willingness to believe anything that sounded poetic. It was like ordering a steak and getting a scented candle. The recovery from the 2008 financial crisis crawled out of the crater like it was hungover from too many campaign slogans. Still, if success were measured by how many times someone could say recovery summer with a straight face, Obama was crushing it. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan revels in the irony of Obama embracing Wall Street while posing as Main Street's messiah. The same man who rallied against corporate excess showed up at Goldman Sachs events like a roadie who lost his guitar but still wanted to jam. He bailed out the banks, left homeowners to drown, and then took the stage like he'd taught the whole country how to swim. It was the political equivalent of robbing your neighbor's house and being thanked for saving the block. Gutfeld doesn't stop there, he shifts to healthcare, wielding sarcasm like a scalpel. Obamacare, hailed as the crown jewel of Obama's domestic legacy, was marketed like a magic cure, but quickly felt more like a Groupon for medical confusion. It promised universal care, but played out like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by the DMV. The website launch was so disastrous it made my space look like Amazon. And yet there was Obama, smiling through the glitches like a wedding DJ, oblivious to the fact that the speakers were literally on fire.
Let's admit it, America. We miss Barack Obama.
Juan does.
There he is. In a recent speech, he said he had no real scandals in his White House. A jab at Trump.
We didn't have a scandal that embarrassed us. I know that seems like a low bar. Generally speaking, you didn't hear about a lot of drama inside our White House.
No drama. So to quote the TSA officer whose dog just sniffed my carry-on, let's unpack this. So why didn't you hear much about O's White House? Well, who was brave enough to look? There was never a cozier relationship between a president and the media, ever. If the White House were a bed, the press was the mutt.
Joe Rogan dives into America's cultural divide, pointing out that under Obama, the country didn't just stumble into identity politics, cannonballed into it like a kid leaping into a pool of Tumblr hashtags. For someone who thrives on uncomfortable truths, Rogan couldn't ignore how the man hailed as a unifier ended up fragmenting society into more categories than a Whole Foods snack aisle. Unity gave way to microlabels and social silos. Gutfeld, never missing a beat, mocks the idea that understanding Obama required a decoder ring, when in reality all it took was the patience to sit through an hour of polished rhetoric without slipping into a coma. Then Joe turns the spotlight on the surveillance state, the Orwellian beast that quietly ballooned under Obama like dystopian fan fiction. The NSA wasn't just spying on terrorists. They were practically tuned in to Grandma's banana bread recipe. The same man who campaigned on transparency ended up building a digital panopticon, then handed the keys to the deep state with a wink. And yet, somehow, people still applauded as if they'd been given freedom instead of a wiretap.
Obama during this Kamala Harris admission, it changed my opinion of that guy.
Boy. Really? Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did just as an intelligent person, but watching him just straight up lie about Trump, the thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
Who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017.
Yeah.
You know, I think it worked back then. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe.
Greg Gutfeld grabs the legacy paintbrush and starts flinging sarcasm like Jackson Pollock on a White House portrait. He takes aim at the Iran deal, calling it the foreign policy equivalent of placing a Vegas bet on a broken roulette wheel. You hand billions to a regime chanting death to America, and walk away grinning like you just scored backstage passes to Reason. Gutfeld paints a surreal image of Obama shaking hands with the Ayatollah blindfolded, holding a pen, and surrounded by diplomats who all seem to be reading from different scripts. Then comes the immigration paradox, which Gutfeld treats like a piñata full of contradictions. Here was a president who deported more people than any of his predecessors, yet delivered speeches that sounded like lullabies for activists. Rogan jumps in, picturing Obama standing in front of the Statue of Liberty, speaking of hope and compassion, then quietly pulling a trapdoor lever beneath thousands of dreamers. It wasn't a sanctuary. It was an illusion, beautifully wrapped in a press release.
What they're doing. Or you go after other Democrats. Let the primaries start now. Go after Newsom, or, go after Fetterman. Go after somebody. The media will gobble that up. Or you go after some foreign leader. Take an axe to Chi, or go after the cartels or something. Get yourself banned from travel somewhere, okay? And then go after some CEO. Go after some big fat cat CEO that's just like hurting his workers and just running up prices. Go after that guy. And then you go on Rogan and you laugh at yourself. That is the recipe for getting attention without going after Donald Trump. Because every time you clash with Trump, you lose, and you look like you don't care about the rest of the American people.
We've talked a lot about how the Democrats are trying to find the answer to Trump. They're trying to find the analog to him. But part of Obama's comments, too, he said, stop looking for the quick fix. Stop looking for the Messiah. You have a great candidates running races right now. Just focus on what you have in front of you.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, if you listen to Obama and you look at these inorganic protests, they say you have to have courage, rally, act, resist, but they don't. For what? What is the actual issue? When Trump owns every issue 80-20 by almost every metric, from the economy to crime to immigration, where are you? The high ground maneuver of common sense has relegated it into more extreme measures. Ask Obama, okay, where do I apply this courage? What space do I park it in? Should I double down on trans dudes in women's sports? Should I back the attacks on ICE? Should I show courage?
Gutfeld swoops in on Obama's celebrity romances, pointing out that from Beyonce to Spielberg, it often felt like he wasn't governing. He was hosting photo ops as the prom king of globalist galas. Every state dinner looked like the Oscars, just with slightly more access to nuclear codes. Gutfeld imagines Obama rehearsing his speech cadence in front of a mirror, surrounded by candlelight and the scent of Tom Ford. It wasn't leadership. It was curated, aesthetic governance, with a jazz playlist and a fact-checker on retainer. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan doesn't let Chicago off the hook. How could he? It's the city where Obama launched his political career, all while seemingly ignoring the rising violence, crumbling schools, and generational poverty in his own ideological backyard. Rogan calls it like he sees it. You don't get to fly over a crater and call it a garden. Chicago was a living embodiment of the very issues Obama claimed to champion, yet he mostly responded with lofty speeches, campaign fundraisers, and rhetorical jazz played over the silence of inaction. Then Gutfeld moves to the climate change narrative, calling out the hypocrisy. Obama would show up to environmental summits aboard Air Force One and leave with a tote bag full of broken promises. He pledged green jobs like a kid handing out lemonade coupons during a snowstorm, while actual emissions kept rising. Gutfeld jokes that Obama probably had a solar panel installed on his golf cart, just to impress his friends at Martha's Vineyard.
Tweeted Obama, part of the reason it's hard to bring about change is because we live in a media environment that elevates falsehoods as much as truths, and divides people as much as it brings them together. Through the Obama Foundation, we're working to empower and equip emerging leaders to tackle issues like the spread of disinformation. Of course, as plenty of people immediately pointed out, it was Obama's Democratic allies who cooked up the Russian collusion hoax? Or how about Nick Sandmann, hands up, don't shoot, don't say gay, or the Hunter laptop story? They're all stories where the public was shielded from the truth with help from the Democratic-friendly legacy media, who try to diss any information that threatens their narrative. And by narrative, I mean load.
Rogan throws a haymaker at Obama's post-presidency. Globe Now, a global influencer with a podcast and a production company. Obama preaches responsibility from the penthouse of an oceanfront mansion. It's like watching someone who sold his soul for attention turn around and sell inspirational merch to the same fans who bought the myth. You don't get to warn the world about rising sea levels while sipping Mai Tais 5 feet above Atlantis. Gutfeld jumps in on the race issue, pointing out that Obama had a historic opportunity to unite, to heal, to usher in a genuinely post-racial era. Instead, he scattered division like it was Parmesan on a plate of outrage. Gutfeld imagines Obama delivering speeches like a philosopher, then ghostwriting the manual for Twitter mobs. It wasn't about progress, it was about turning disagreement into moral failure, using poetic guilt as a policy tool. Disagree with his healthcare plan, and suddenly you weren't just wrong, you were 3/5 of a citizen in his eyes. Rogan doesn't skip the arrogance either. That trademark smirk, that professorial stare, it wasn't confidence. It was the political equivalent of an eye roll. He calls it Harvard swagger, where intelligence is assumed, and accountability is outsourced. Obama treated tough questions as beneath him, unless they came from a Vanity Fair writer or a room full of Ivy League interns. And when it came to criticism, his skin was thinner than the 2010 economic recovery chart.
Do you remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this? And then they go, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect.
Gutfeld isn't letting go of the education disaster, either. He points out that Obama did more to empower teachers' unions than to rescue failing schools. The irony, Greg notes, is almost comical: a president adored by academia overseeing a collapse in inner-city education while funding research on whether squirrels are impacted by climate change. School choice. Not a chance. Parental involvement. Optional at best. But if you were looking for a lecture on systemic barriers, Obama had a 40-slide PowerPoint presentation and an army of consultants ready to go. Then Joe Rogan wraps up the first round with a gut punch. Obama was the smoothest salesman in the world, but at the end of the day, he was selling air. Cool, minty, well-branded air. He had a rare talent for making people feel like they were part of something noble. Even as their insurance premiums tripled and their local VA hospitals couldn't remember their names. That was the magic and the con. Obama didn't govern. He narrated America's decline with a Spotify voice and a flawless golf swing. And both Rogan and Gutfeld know the roast isn't over. There's still more glitter in the illusion, more myths to smash. More symbolic trophies collecting dust in the moral display case of a man who turned soaring rhetoric into a substitute for real results. They're not finished, not even close, because just when you think the curtain has finally closed, Obama reappears with a new Netflix deal and a memoir every 14 minutes.
If you watch Fox News on a regular basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, like, folks who make me mad.
So let's analyze. He says Fox goes out of its way to locate and then demonize the poor. For what reason? So we can kill and eat them? His criticism is absurd because he never suggests a motive. FNC is always focused on policies that keep the poor poor, not the poor that...
Joe Rogan can't help but laugh. Here's a guy who spent 8 years sidestepping accountability, now dishing out life advice like he's the Dalai Lama with a drone license. It's not leadership, it's lifestyle branding. Obama didn't just leave office. He transformed his presidency into a streaming franchise. And Gutfeld jumps on that line like it's the closing zinger at a comedy roast. Obama didn't retire, he rebranded. Now he's producing documentaries on American hardship from the comfort of a multi-million-dollar compound guarded like Fort Knox. It's as if reality itself needs a background check just to get past the gate. Rogan snorts at the irony. Obama taught a generation to worship symbolism over substancy, and now he's cashing in on it like a tech bro who just realized public speaking pays. The country didn't improve. It just got better at pretending things were profound because they were delivered slowly and with gravitas. And behind it all, the same polished nothingness, neatly wrapped in a designer suit.